Before we get into it, I'm doing this because I'm trying to create a flow of content in the interest of promoting my books. They're here on the screen right now. Please check them out. I'm making myself visible in the interest of letting these publishers know that I'm doing my part to get my name out there. And that's what this is all about. So if you like this video, please check out my work, subscribe to the channel, all that good stuff. I've been writing for a very long time, and it's not what I do for a day job. It's not what provides my most income. Same goes for filmmaking. I started that a bit later, but I've made a whole bunch of films. They've gone to festivals, they've won awards. They've been offered distribution deals. Some of them have been seen more than 1,000 times, which I think is very cool. But again, it's not paying the bills. And yet I carry on. And part of that is that one day I hope it could pay the bills. I hold out for that possibility. Come on, please. And the other part is because it's just so rewarding to do anyway. And I wanted to talk a bit about why it is so rewarding to do. Even when I know I don't have massive audiences, I still know that my work is doing what it is meant to do with the audience who do receive it sometimes. The first recent example I have of when I knew, it was worth getting out of the house and working on something was when I performed comedy recently, and I told a joke that I'm still working on, which didn't even receive that much laughter. It was about something sad that had happened to me recently, and I opened up with it, and I told this, what I thought was a joke, but it was about a sad thing that had happened recently, and I guess against my expectations, an audience of people who had never met me were still kind of sad that this had happened. I thought because they were all strangers, they're just, and I'd offered it up for their laughter, they would just be like, oh, that's funny, but apparently not. They were like, oh, that's a shame. I think that's what the reaction was. Some other comedians that evening came up to me and told me about some other stuff that had happened to them recently. One had suffered something really bad that very day and then had to go up and host that evening. And another guy had another story to tell me about somebody that he'd lost contact with, and that it was a very unfortunate scenario. And I knew then that the fact that they felt comfortable telling me those things meant that they understood that I had been vulnerable. So I think that the emotional impact of what I was trying to do worked. The bravery of it communicated, even if it didn't make anyone laugh. So I still felt glad that I did it, but I got to work on that joke. I was out for dinner with some friends recently, and one of them said they'd noticed my post about a novel that I'd finished the first draft of, and they asked for some more details. So I explained it was about a reasonably rare medical condition and how the book goes into graphic details about what it's like for people to go through that, and that it was in the interest partly of just being more compassionate towards people who have to go through something like this, and then working on that notion that we all have that, rare medical events happen to other people and not to ourselves or the people that we know. After explaining a little bit of this, guy at the table I'd only met once before says I went through that, and then showed us the scars that he'd received from that treatment. There's no way, if I hadn't been working on this novel and spoken about it, that he would have done that evening. I wonder when we might ever have found that out about him. But we all felt closer to him as a result of him sharing that. Yes, it came up in conversation, that's one part of it, but I think it was also the notion that I'd spent so much time trying to create a compassionate narrative about something that he'd been through. And it felt to me that was enough, that even if I'd spent months on this novel that is still just in first draft form and I don't know how I'll get it out, the fact that I could even tell somebody that I'd worked on that and that they would confess something that personal as a result told me I'm doing the right thing. I'm kind of in two minds. Like in one side of me thinks that these moments are so rewarding that it makes it very difficult for me to focus on things like audience size or revenue, or certainly not writing to market, which I've never done and don't even know how to do. But when you have that kind of really unique impact through something that you've spent time thinking about, or something tragic that happened to you that you want to offer, and you see that immediate feedback, that's so rewarding to me that it reminds me that this is why I do this. Last good example. I work as an engineer. For various reasons, I don't talk about what I do outside of the office that often. One just being that I'm actually quite a private person, and remain a private person even though I'm making all these videos and so on, and supposedly confessing things on stage. It's very curtailed, curated. It's specific things that I want to say after I've taken time to consider them. It's not like I'm living my life fully out in the open. It's like I'm picking things that I can share when I'm ready to share them. But there remains a whole block of stuff that I'm not ready to share. And so I am quite a private person. I don't talk about my life outside of the office too often in the office if I can help it. But if it comes up, I don't lie either. So I get asked, like, what am I doing during the holidays? I said I was going to save it for some film festivals that are coming up. And they say, oh, you like film festivals? Yes, well, I have one that I really like in the UK that I like to go to, and sometimes they pick their films and I hope they pick it again. Oh, you make films? Yes, I make films. And then I explain, I use my own equipment, I use people that I know, I write it, I try and take over as many of the roles as I can by myself to be as independent a filmmaker as I can be. Sometimes the conversation ends there, and that's absolutely fine. But there was one time, there was a guy that I met several months apart, and he had remembered that I'd made films and wanted to ask me some more about it. And then eventually he said, he was asking about how much money it makes, and I was like, nothing. I have one film that has maybe been seen 10,000 times over 3 years, and I made $15 from it or something. And it cost way more than that to make, so it's not profitable yet. I live in hope. He told me that he became disillusioned with his job and that he'd taken a break from it, and that him and his wife started a touring company so that they could be out in nature and showing Norway to people and passing on something that they were really passionate about. And they had difficult conversations about it, and that this was a very stable form of income for him, but he was just done and he wanted out. And he gave this his best shot, and I don't think they could make it profitable. And therefore he came back to the office and he was doing this job. And this was a guy who was at a company that I don't work for. I just met him through my work, and he was a big, like, leader guy. He had a very serious job. As far as I could tell from the outside, he was somebody who would have had to be 100% focused on his job both in and outside the office for a very long time in order to achieve that job. I never would have assumed otherwise, that he had this whole other path that he'd pursued and that hadn't worked out. And he only felt comfortable telling me about that because I was honest about what I was going through. You don't even need to be a storyteller or any kind of creative in order to be this honest with people about your life, but there's something about really gunning for your passions that brings this kind of stuff out in people. And it reminds me that I can have a day-to-day impact by honestly pursuing things I love all the time. But it's not all great, is it? Vulnerability comes with caveats. True vulnerability is about authenticity, right? It's about being open in a way that can be painful. And not everyone is like that. And so when you do it, it can be seen as a threat. And the desire might be to shut it down. And it's such a fragile thing, as you probably know. Maybe you're a very sensitive person like me. It's not a very easy thing to be vulnerable, and it's easier to stamp it out. Or it would be. I don't really feel like I have any other option of how to live. Even if it is painful, I'm just going to keep doing this. Because I don't like the alternatives. But that doesn't mean that it's always a joy. But I do keep finding very unexpected moments when it pays off. Ah yes, and here's the second caveat, which comes from my first anecdote about the comedy night. People came up to me and started telling me things about what they had gone through in life. I opened with a single tragedy, and I received information about 3, 4, 5, 6 different tragedies in a very quick onslaught from a bunch of different people. And it was so rapid fire and unexpected that I didn't really have my boundaries up enough to say, listen, this is very intense. Because I think that a lot of this creativity exists to do the work of the vulnerability that I can't do in person, because it's too overwhelming for me to hear all the unheard stories in the world. That part of it is part of the job of being a human being in limited capacity. It is at the dinner party when somebody wants to tell me about some unique medical trauma that they went through. It is in the office after I've known someone for a number of months when they want to tell me about some other thing that they pursued that didn't work out. A rapid onslaught of tragedy from a bunch of strangers is unsustainable. It was a weirdly nice sign like I say, that I had been vulnerable and that was appreciated, and I think that's why they came to me with these stories. But it was way too much to hear. And so the flip side of vulnerability is that I don't think there's enough vulnerability in the world, and so when it is seen, it is sought out, it is delicious to a broad variety of people, and you have to have strong boundaries when that type of thing happens, and that's something I'm still working on. What the hell am I supposed to say when all these people say, oh, I totally relate to what you said, this, and this, and I'll be like, yeah, it was okay when I said it, but you need to shut up now. Obviously, I'm not going to say that, but I don't quite have the sophisticated language to handle those scenarios. That's why I stay home and I make videos to you here, so that if I meet you in person, you can't overwhelm me. But you can still benefit from what I'm trying to say. I hope that I managed to curate these thoughts into a logical, flowing video for you, and that it makes sense why I wanted to talk about vulnerability and its impact on the world in the midst of storytelling. If you're any kind of creative, keep going, even if it's painful, even if for long stretches of time it doesn't feel like anyone's paying attention, because it really does matter to people in ways that will largely go unseen, even as I talk about these face-to-face reactions I have. I mean, I always think that constitutes about 10% of the reaction you ever see from people. Work is far more valuable than even the impact you'll ever see. And I really hope that's true of what I do, and I hope it's true of what you do. And whoever you are, keep going and keep being yourself. Don't let anyone stop you doing that. It will be appreciated so much by the people who manage to appreciate it. And thank you so much for watching. I'm gonna stop interrupting now. Oi.